Hello, welcome to this look at Gregtech Community Edition. So you want to start in the steam age really. So you can see we've got this coal boiler and it's creating steam. The steam is going through a bronze pipe into a steam turbine. And then here we have a soldering alloy cable. And this is an LV cable. And we're going into the low voltage transformer. So the LV is 32 EU, and when we go in here we have a low voltage, and we've got an ultra low voltage cable coming out here, which is the red alloy cable. That's going into the ultra low voltage battery buffer. So we've got a tantalum capacitor in there, and then that is feeding some machines that we can have. And even though these are LV machines, there aren't actually any ultra low voltage machines. It will still accept the power from here. So on machines you get item or output disabled, so this will be able to output items, but what you can do is, if we use a wrench for instance, see, we can make the output here, and then what you can do with a screwdriver, you can allow input from the output side. So that becomes similar to how in thermal expansion machines you've got that little icon which has got both the blue and the orange on it. That's basically what that means. So you can have input and output from the same face. And you can see the difference in graphic there. So in Gregtech, this is going to be a little bit of an overview of what you might want to do. You really want to get circuits and stuff, so you want to go for PVC in general, right? So if we look at PVC, you can see a lot of stuff goes on in the chemical reactor, so you need to have some air and some vinyl chloride for that, and that's from ethylene and chlorine. So they're the sorts of things you might want to get. So ethylene needs ethanol and sulfuric acid. It's a bit like bees actually in a way, and you can get these from wood vinegar. The pyrolyzed oven is pretty useful as well. So you just put some wood with a circuit in there, you get charcoal, and you get some wood vinegar out of there. And there's your ethanol. Sulfuric acid, lots of ways to get it. Water and sulfur trioxide. Also these are the multi-blocks as well. Sulfur trioxide, oxygen, sulfur dioxide. So probably not a bad way to do it like this. Go sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, and then just sulfuric acid. Might not be a bad way to do it. But you can see the usage here. If it takes 80 UATech, it means that it will work in ultra low voltage. So another thing you might want to get, so I think I kind of went through that, didn't I? Just trying to think. I guess the chlorine I didn't look at. So chlorine, you can use salt water. That might be an interesting one to look at. So we need a mixer for that, with salt and water. This is another way to do it. This is the way to get to the next level, the epoxy. I'll talk about that in a minute though. Is there anything else for chlorine? So we can do magnesium and sodium. So sodium is what you often make the batteries out of, the basic batteries. Magnesium chloride, blast furnace with magnesium dust and titanium tetrachloride, which is carbon and rutile. Rutile is ore, carbon is coal. So yeah, it looks like a lot of the good ways to get chlorine really is just using salt water. Now the sodium hydroxide is also useful, I believe. Yeah, well, you need it for this one. So I guess we'll talk about the epoxy resin as well. So the epoxy resin you need to get, and you need bisphenol epichlorohydrin. Let's look at phenol actually quickly here. So phenol. So you need hydrochloric acid. So that's from wood tar. So again, the sort of thing. Yeah, you can see charcoal byproduct. Blah blah blah. Been there before. The pyrolyzed oven. So yeah. So acetone. Let's have a look. Cumene and oxygen. Calcium acetate. Maybe is nicer. So you just need quicklime. So that's obviously found in the ground. Acetic acid, wood vinegar, been there before. So you can see how like these things sort of like merge with one another, sort of thing. Phenol acetate, hydrochloric acid. As you can see, we need silicon. Methane as well is useful to get. So there is a multi-block for this cracked stuff as well. You can go through the various different propane, hexane. I guess they're all in there, aren't they? But anyway, refinery gas you might want to go at. Sulfuric gas, and then there's the oil section as well, right? So we've got various types of oil. But yeah, it is a fairly... It's not that involved in terms of this sort of tree. I guess there's more other stuff. So bisphenol, you need to get epichlorohydrin, which is from silicon dust. So silicon, I guess, is useful to have as well. Oh no, sorry. Epichlorohydrin is our hydrochloric acid and glycerol. That's right. And you can get there with methanol and seed oil. And you can extract that directly from seeds. Usage 2 EU a tick. That's ultra low voltage. And is there anything else really on? Yeah, glycerol, carbon dioxide and hydrogen for the methanol. There isn't like an air distillation. You can use wood gas. This is also in... Let me just take this out. It just burns. If you're curious, it just burns it. It doesn't do anything. So yeah. So we're at wood gas, I believe, right? Let's look at that. So yeah, it comes from charcoal byproducts. If you look at the charcoal byproducts, wood tar, wood vinegar, and wood gas. Yeah, so that's in a wood gas will get you the carbon dioxide you need. But yeah, if we go back to what I was saying about epoxy resin, bisphenol, I think we kind of covered that really at this point. So yeah, so this is just a little look at how to do it. So what you need to do to get a lot of these things is you do need to have these multi-blocks. So for instance, if I just go to here, there is a useful tab. Did I go past it? This is the very early one, by the way, the primitive blast furnace. But I did want to look at the beginning. Is it not here somewhere? The multi-blocks. Here we are. So yeah, so this is for get you steel very quickly. Coke oven for creosote, as you might expect. We can look at hot ingots, right? So titanium is useful. These are later game. These ones are HSS. What's that? Iron, tungsten. You've obviously got all the chemical formula as well. So gem dust, implosion, compress, pyrolyze. Looked at that a little bit. cracked variant, like I said, and then this will get you various things from oil. So yeah, I will talk about that in a moment actually, because there is something about the naphtha thing. Blast furnace, and various boilers. Essentially, these just have different heat levels, the boilers. I don't know where it's getting its energy from, but I guess it's still... I don't know. But yeah, you can look at the processing of, say, let's look at titanium, for instance. So you see, to get titanium, you need to get it. You need to vacuum freeze the hot titanium, and then you need magnesium with titanium tetrachloride. So these are things that just spoken about. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to really do like a video on this. There's so many different things on it. I do like the idea that you can use like the wood stuff for a lot. Like if you look at what you can use wood gas for, we can get carbon dioxide out of it. But in the distillation tower, get carbon dioxide, ethylene, methane, hydrogen, and carbon monoxide. Now some things I don't think carbon monoxide is particularly useful. Oh, well actually it gets you towards methanol, so that's also useful. So wood vinegar. That's obviously gets you towards acetic acid, which is useful. You can also get ethanol from it. Methyl acetate, acetone. What do you use a methyl acetate for? You can mix it with polyvinyl acetate and get to glue. Glue is actually quite useful, I believe. Yeah, because this gets you into the circuit boards. I should probably talk about that. You know, I'm just going to go away and just talk about some of this other stuff. I know I'm not really showing like the usages of it, but I still think it's kind of useful to think about things. Like if you look at the circuits, basically what you need to do is, like, say you do like usages of these things. That's probably not the best way to do it. There are certain circuits which like an advanced circuit. What can you use it in? I'm trying to find one which so if you look at the components, like there's certain components like a piston or whatever, right? So here you can see the different tiers, right? So LV is 32, up to 32. So anything that's up to 32 will be LV. MV is up to 512. Is it? LV is 32, 128. Sorry, MV is 128. HV is 512. EV I think is 2048. IV is 8192. Yeah, it really goes up pretty high, doesn't it? I'm not sure everything is even in here though. It doesn't look like anything above IV. Doesn't look like it's actually there. There's certain things you need. Oh, neodymium, that's a high-end material as well. Essentially you get these magnetic rods in the polarizer. You get various other, if you look at the rods, you get them from the lathe. So basically there's different ways you could make the rod. If you craft it, you could do it like this, and you'd get one rod. You can also use this one as well. I'm not sure what the benefit of that is, but the extruder's got various different shapes for it as well. So the extruder would get you the rod with 7296 EU. Each of the different materials has got slightly different numbers to it. It's been something which has been sort of like finely honed over years and years. But yeah, So if we look at the different ores, I believe there's like, if you look at phosphate or something, you can sort of see like what you might want to do. So say you get some phosphate ore. If we look at what you might want to do, is we can go from phosphate ore into crushed phosphate ore for 2, right? You could smelt it, get 1 phosphate dust. I didn't mean to do that, sorry. So yeah, crushed, so it'll be 2. And then we'd go to impure pile of phosphate dust. And then we'd centrifuge it finally. And that'll get you phosphate dust and then tiny piles of phosphorus dust as well. So essentially you end up with more. You can see these are the different, these are the tiers that I was trying to explain before. But yeah, there's a lot of cool machines though. Like, let's just look at the machines quickly. Some of these are the multi-block structures. There's also these cool radiation blocks as well. So these are some of the things. Oh yeah, the pump. So for instance, if you have like a chemical reactor, well, it doesn't really matter. But you see, there's going to be liquid, right? So if we get a pump, let's do... do you need a... So if you use a screwdriver in it, you can then specify this. You can put a filter on as well. Filter. So it's a way to increase the usefulness of each side of the block. And let's see what else there is. Sorry, I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. I did just want to show that there. Lots of different tanks as well. This is something that I remember in 1.4 they had that. But yeah, essentially, like, they've got slightly... You can see the naming convention is pretty straightforward. I believe you also want to use this as well, this fine wire. You can see it's very useful in the assembler for these things. It doesn't get you much. Let's look at fine copper wire, probably be a bit more useful to look at. So you could look at something like the resistor, which is an early game thing. You can see you get 3 resistors for each of these recipes. But the fine copper wire essentially works out to be a lot cheaper. So that's the useful thing to point out. And there's and throughout the process of getting circuits, there's elements in terms of what you do in the assembler. You can see that's a cheaper recipe. So you can see how things, essentially they get cheaper as you go through it. So for instance, if we look at some of the components of the circuit, and the reason like I show you all this stuff with the phenol, because you can see the circuit boards. So you can see, like, if you were making this wetware circuit board, by the time you get to something more advanced, you can just use more advanced stuff. And there's the epoxy. You can see, sort of spoke about that at the beginning. Interestingly, I think they're all 5010, aren't they? Well, those two certainly are. So how do you reinforce that? The epoxy resin with glass fibres in a chemical bath. So look at. In general, you want to just look for the chemical reactor. That will give you a good idea how to do these things. System on the chip. So yeah, you need the precision laser engraver for a lot of stuff as well. You can see this usage. This is like an EV recipe. And we can see there, you can see advanced circuit parts, for instance. Only 2 fine copper wire and the system on a chip. So this is like an element which bypasses the early stuff. You often need a soldering alloy for this stuff. Tin, soldering alloy. You can see you use less. And yeah, so it just depends what materials you've access to. That's all I can think of for now though anyway. So thanks for watching.